Lionel, is that you?
There, I think I got it. William?
Mr. Lionel?
William? It's been a while, buddy.
It has, but I've heard plenty of you. Is that a good or a bad thing?
Yeah, I know. Are you slamming your head against the wall yet?
Only 3 times a day.
There you go. All right. So we're talking to William Sampson, who is the official graphic artist of the AML network. And he models the Sioux Line, the Milwaukee Road. How's that going?
Yeah, Sioux Line, Milwaukee Road. So it's the merger in 85. And that's, Sioux the Milwaukee Road is kind of what I refer to the railroad as. But yeah, Sioux Line Railroad, Milwaukee Road merged in 85, or technically 1986. And when they came together, I called Sioux the Milwaukee Road.
And you live in the Minneapolis area?
Yeah, just northwest of Minneapolis.
What do you think of this Ken Zeska guy?
He's all right. He's doing some good things, in my opinion. But he's doing that S scale, which is a little bit suspect.
Are you proud of yourself, Ken? Are you proud of yourself? I'm still giving him a hard time about the Christmas show. I think I'll continue to give him a hard time about the Christmas show forever and ever.
That's fair enough.
He just seems like a nice guy. Seems like stuff rolls off his back pretty good.
Yeah, well, I think, you got to roll with the punches when you're working with the characters like us, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the reason we're doing this particular podcast, I might put this out like on a Friday or something, just because we're both very excited that we now have more than 200 Patreons on the old AML network.
I think that's worth an applause.
We're slowly working our way to the target of 1,000 Patreons. One patron at a time. We're getting there. I think we're up to 205 as we record this.
I think you're right. I just checked the other day.
And you were very excited about getting to 200, and you wanted to do something special. And then I thought to myself, well, yeah, if we do that, I'll kick in a couple of T-shirts, and we'll send the gentleman a care package. And I actually even have the name here, but it'll take me a minute to find it, because as with everything here, I have to move, all sorts of papers out of the way and stuff like that. But it was quite some time ago. Well, not quite some time. Well, it was.
It feels like forever, doesn't it?
Yeah. It wasn't that long ago that we got our 200th patron, but it's now, at the time that this is being released, it probably was a while ago. But his name was, and I was paying attention to this because you were very excited. His name is Michael Moore, and it M-A-U.
Is it M-O?
M-A.
Go ahead and spell it.
M-A-U-R-E-R. M-A-U-R.
I'm calling that Maurer.
Maurer. I love that. I'm calling you pretty darn close.
I mean, it's not Joe Maurer, but his is M-A-U-E-R, but M-A-U-R-E-R.
Yeah. Maurer. I like that. That's probably what it is. Anyways, he was the 200th person to sign up to Patreon. Then we lost one or two, but he was the guy that got us to that magic 2 double nothing first time out.
Do you think he was holding back at 199 or 198? And he's going to subscribe now.
Yeah, right now. And oddly, and I think he was pretty much prepared. He was paying attention. But anyways, yes. And then not long after that, I got an email with his address and shirt size and everything. And I'm thinking, okay. Well, anyways, he's the 200th guy. And you wanted to donate a car or something, a freight car or something, didn't you?
Yeah, I floated it out there that it would be either a 2-bay, it's a GBW hopper. So this is a custom. I've redone the grabs and modified it per Don Manlick. If you remember, he had done decals back in the day. So I ordered up a set. I created a 2-bay Green Band Western hopper. Then I had it's a 50-foot KD. So this one's a KD. I weathered it, Milwaukee Road, and it has the Hydroframe 60, if you're familiar with the yellow and black paint scheme. And then lastly I had was one of these small, it's a 187 scale vehicle. This is a 1974 Chevy a 1972 Chevy C10 pickup. So I had those items that I figured, you know what, if they want to make their selection, that'd be one way that they could, if we got to 200, they could pick one of the three. But thinking even further, and one thing I do like about the podcast is all the camaraderie among the fellow modelers. But it might be a conversation open possibly to you, is we just take one of the three now. We take another one at 250 and another one at 300.
I'm loving that.
So we pay it forward. I'll do all three of them instead of just letting them select one. I'll say the GBW hopper can go to Michael, and we'll get that shipped off to him. We'll connect and get his information, and then we'll do the I say either the 50-foot at 250 because it's a 50-foot, and then we'll do that C10 pickup at 300. I think that'd be a fun way to do it.
I think that'd be a perfect. And each time I'll send a couple. I'll send the gray and the blue T-shirt. So we'll get them, it'll make them well worth their while to hit the 250, the 200, 250, and 300 mark.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think this would be more entertaining? And if it is more work on the back end, just tell me that. But if you took at 250, we take a lottery, 1 through 250, so any of the Patreons have a shot at it. Do you have a list of 1 to 250?
I do, but I kind of like, I was paying attention.
Okay.
And Michael became the 200th guy, so I thought, or person. And I thought, well, okay, that's the one. And I kind of like that, where because it's kind of a random thing anyways.
That's true.
I mean, you have to really be paying attention. I'm sure it was random that Michael ended up at the 200, and because I mean, you could sign up as somebody is dropping off. Not many people drop off though. That's pretty rare. But yeah, I think it's just kind of neat that whoever is the person that signs up at that number is the one that we send a little something to.
I think that's fair enough.
And then we could always just once in a while just have a draw anyways for the heck of it. Send somebody a T-shirt just for the heck of it.
I like it.
And we got the Jenkins photo contest. I think I'm gonna. I will put this out in March, probably as a standalone on a Friday morning, which I don't do very often, but this will be pretty easy. We'll talk for a little while and we'll put it out on its own. And then we have that Jenkins contest, which ends on March the 18th. Today is March the 1st when we're recording. And in a couple of weeks, we're doing the Jenkins. We're doing that show on the March the 18th, which is the last day for Jenkins entries, and we're making Martin Jenkins decide who the winner is, and we have $100 gift certificate from Midwest Model Railroad, and we have some shirts, of course, and a couple other little things. So whoever's the winner, it's going to be well worth their while. I know a couple of my favorites so far, but I shouldn't speak.
Are you gonna tip your hand on that, or just keep it to yourself?
You know what? There's been some good ones coming in lately. So there's probably, I'd say there's 5 to 10 really good ones. I think it's going to be, it's going to be a very hard decision for Martin to make.
Well, I think it's a toss-up because there are, at first, you had a onslaught right on the early on, but they've continued to roll in and they get more and more creative.
I know. And then Michelle Kempema sent one in there not too long ago, and they get better and better. That's for sure. So we're going to have to come up with another contest after this one, I guess. We had a ton of entry. I bet you we've had 50 people send in a photo for the Jenkins contest.
Well, I think it's every bit of that. If you're on the fans of the Modeler's Life, that you see an onslaught or a slew of them popping up.
Yeah, absolutely. We're up to 740 members on that page now, too, which is crazy. A ton of stuff. So what's new with, can I call you William or do I call you Bill?
I think you've known me long enough. You can call me Bill.
All right.
The William surfaced off of Facebook when I signed up for it in 2004 or whenever it was. I signed it up William Sampson, and most of my print material, email, everything's William.
Right.
But, my parents and family, they call me Bill, or people that have known me for years.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go with Bill then from now on.
Absolutely.
And I am forever indebted that you are our official graphic artist. I have an idea for the. I'm thinking of having Fred behind a desk for the picture of the mail boy, or I'm going to say you can click on the picture of Fred behind the desk, with letters flying and every thing like that. How is the graphic arts game these days?
It's hit and miss. I mean, the way they've been as of late, it's probably been a lot lighter than maybe you would like. But as a contract designer, I end up with influx of work. It really kind of just dictates by the needs that are out there. And sometimes it's a busy week, and sometimes it's slow. Like this week, it's actually fairly light, which is kind of nice. On the modeling side, you can get a few things done.
Right, but it's steady at least, eh?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool. So what's new on the Sioux line, the Milwaukee sub? What's new there?
Man, I've been diving into a lot of different things. LEDs have become kind of an addiction as of late. If the small, like they call them Pico LEDs, Evans Design has the smallest ones I can find, but I've been putting ground lights, cab lights, step lights, any light I can put on a locomotive. I just finished up an Overland SDL 39, surprise, surprise, and it's got 19 LEDs on it. So diving into that side of things, I use Nick Santo's decoder buddy, and I wire up all the LEDs, and away we go. But the SDL 39 was a project that I wanted to make the nicest SDL 39 I could possibly create, since I had an undeck Overland, or I took an Overland and I stripped it down to the brass and got it painted up by a fellow modeler, Joe Binish. And that's what my latest project, I finally get it done. And do you know what happens, Lionel, when you finish a project of that magnitude?
No.
Manufacturers come out with them.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, people know the Scale Trains announcement, but I consider that kind of the thank you to the railroad world, or you're welcome, I should say. Thank you for Scale Trains to do it, but you're welcome. If I didn't fit SD9, I don't think we would have had it done in a plat model.
And that came out in brass, did it?
Yeah, Overland did a couple of runs. They did it back like I have is from 94, and the drivetrain. Some people they kind of shy away from the diesel and even some of the brass in general and how they run. These run actually quite nice. Overland went through and they did a nice job on their drivetrain. I went through and cleaned everything up a little bit and tidied it up to do what I've done thus far. And I ended up putting sound in it. I used an ESU decoder, thanks to Adam Pinellas. So I ended up ordering one from him. I put it in. I ended up picking up it's Scale Sound Systems. You know, those guys that are making the super speakers is what I kind of call them. Sure. I put one of those speakers in it, and it's hands down the best locomotive I own. And I'm probably kind of biased thinking that it's the nicest SDL 39 currently out there.
And what have you got it painted as, Milwaukee or Green Bay? And what?
No, I did a Milwaukee Road in the billboard scheme. So that was repainted like in 1981. They came out in two different sets. They only had 10 of them. They did it in I want to say 68 or 69. And then again in I believe it was 1972.
I said Green Bay and it was Wisconsin Central.
Yes, jeez. No, I looked at Wisconsin Central and I thought about buying it and then stripping it, but I thought for any Wisconsin Wisconsin Central modeler out there, it needed to remain in the WC paint that the guy had done up so nicely.
Yeah. So you haven't done a video for a while. How come?
Well, I actually have. I've got them edited. By the time this would air, you're saying in a few weeks, there'll be a couple episodes already out.
Okay, because you haven't had one out for like, what, 6 months or something?
Yeah, that's probably about right. I finished actually probably been a little bit longer than that, midsummer last year. I did a back-to-back of my dad's railroad. I do the GN in 1970 on YouTube. And then I did my season right after that, which some people said they were kind of surprised, but I thought, man, the momentum that I get from doing each episode, it allows me to go downstairs, do some modeling. I record it while I'm doing it. And it actually speeds up the process for myself to get some things done.
No, really? So let's not skip over that. So you feel that doing these YouTube videos motivates you to work on your own stuff?
Honestly, I'd say that's the only reason I kind of started doing them. I was doing them for my dad to show him how to weather some freight car trucks and how I would do a few of the detail type things on locomotives and freight cars. Well, then a few other guys I shared it with at a show, and I said, just go on YouTube. You can search Sue the Milwaukee Road or GN 1970, and it'll pop up. And you can even go on Google and type in just GN 1970, and it'll pop up. But that's what started it. And then I thought, I need to get a little bit more done. And a fellow modeler, Tom Klomoski, he came along and says, hey, I've got some questions about, stuff about doing a railroad in your size and prototype. And I says, okay, I'll do that. Well, I document this stuff as I'm doing it. And I thought, you know what? I'm not the only one that's going to be building the bench work, putting in electrical. I might as well at least document what I'm doing. And it's not the way to do it. It's just a way to do it. Everybody's got different methods and techniques. I just share the method that I'm doing and set the camera up. I use my cell phone. I just mount it to a mic stand and point it at what I'm working on, record it, and then throw it into iMovie, edit it up, and upload it to YouTube.
Yeah, well, you've got a real knack for it, but of course, I guess that comes from being a commercial graphic artist. You have a real eye for what works and what doesn't. But yeah, your videos are excellent. So so Tom got a hold of you? Did he?
Well, see, I watched Tom's video, and Tom actually kind of got me into doing the videos because he was posting videos of him doing switching operations. It's on his railroad, of course, and he's showing his railroad. And I thought, man, that's just too cool to sit and watch. I mean, some of his videos are 10, 15 minutes long, and I will find myself watching that full 10, 15 minutes like I'm rail fanning, and it's a guy's model railroad. So I figured, you know what? I might as well kind of document what I'm doing, kind of like he was doing with his railroad, because I wanted at some point do that. I'd like to do the same type of thing he's doing.
Right. So he contacted you, or you contacted him?
You know, I can't even quite recall. He commented in my YouTube videos to start with. So he made a few comments, and then he and I kind of exchanged back and forth. And then at some point, I don't know, we exchanged email information and emailed back and forth. I've called him a few times. He's called me. And we just continued to converse and get to know one another. And he's down in Atlanta, and I'm up here in Minneapolis.
Yeah, he's out in the sticks. He's in northern Georgia there. So I got to get him back on the podcast. We had him on, probably 2 years ago now. And I got him on the list to get him back on. But
he's a great conversation. In general, he's got a wealth of information.
Yeah, absolutely. What's this? I'm looking at your latest video it says Curmudgeon's Gripe of the Week. I like that.
Well, the Curmudgeon is a compilation of all gripes I hear from fellow modelers. If we're at flea markets and they're belly aching about something, 9 out of 10 times, I just take a mental note or I write it in my phone, and it's a gripe of the week. And sometimes it's about couplers, sometimes it's about DCC, whatever the common modeler is belly aching about, at some point, it becomes a Curmudgeon's Gripe of the Week.
Right.
But I tend to usually do about a 30-second or a 45-second long little kind of a rant about some random topic.
Yeah. So how would you say your layout's coming here? I mean, it looks like you're making some headway.
Yeah, I'm really liking it. I've been operating it a lot more. I did hook up the proto throttle. My son, he actually services as the engineer quite often. He just turned 6 this past weekend. And if anybody has younger kids or people to get interested in the hobby, I know the proto throttle is a higher investment, but it is extremely easy for kids to operate. I color code the handles because you can buy a handle kit to change out the actual levers. But I can just say flip the yellow one up to 3, which is, he accelerates. I say flip the red to be able to hit his brake. He hits his direction. And I literally am just on the ground doing the switching while he is the engineer running the locomotive back and forth. Yeah, so it makes it fun. And the railroad, as far as changes, I've been very pleased with the track plan. Now, I'm doing the Hiawatha Elevator District in the Twin Cities, which is a corridor between a bunch of elevators just south of Minneapolis. And I actually took the track plan and drew right on top of it the right-of-way and what tracks I wanted to use, what switches I wanted to keep. So I really kind of laid out a track plan that matches the prototype. And now for myself, when I'm operating, it plays very much like the prototype. The way switches are set up, they've got a crossover in a certain area, and there's just movements on the railroad itself are a lot easier, but it's also, I would consider, professionally designed by the railroad.
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't feel like I have to move any crossovers. I don't feel like I have to tear out any switches. I've been operating, I've ran it through probably about 10, 12 times and have been very pleased with kind of the car movements themselves.
There is a ton of track in that area. Just like a massive amounts of track and turnouts.
Well, in such a short area too. You're really kind of only thinking about, for people thinking prototype, you're on about a 5-6 block long area, and there's 4 or 5 industries, and now it's becoming less and less. But in my case, I have about 6 industries that are being served. And that's enough action. I'm modeling pretty close to 1-to-1 as far as the building sizes. So my buildings are 4 or 5 feet long. The industry is receiving sometimes 6 to 8 cars, but that's what, Nokomis and Atkinson and those mills that are down there are getting. They're getting air slides and hoppers that are coming in volume. Well, you've got to go in and switch those places out, obviously with the volume like the prototype would have. And I think time-wise too, I'm averaging about an hour 15 to an hour and a half of operating time, moving at a kind of a snail's pace, but switching out the cars you need to do and head back to what would be known as Southtown Yard.
So I see this one video that you've got like a Murphy bed with the one room that has trackage in it, and you have a Murphy bed in there.
Well, I refer to that room as Klomoski Suite. So that's Tom's suite, and that's only because he's the one that really pushed me to get this thing going. He kind of encouraged me to dive into the track plan, give him some information about what was actually taking place. And as I moved forward, that Murphy bed, it was going to be a guest room. And I thought, if you're going to have a guest room, why have just a bed in the middle of the room and then you have to walk around the bed? The Murphy bed is a convertible that moves the bed right up into the wall. So it's out of the way during operations and the general use of the room, which, the kids, if they're playing or my son sets up his train in the middle of the room, it's not in the way of having a bed sit there. So it's up out of the way. I display my model railroading as well as some of my hardware collection. I have lanterns and, a headlight off of a Sioux Line locomotive sitting there, and it kind of set it up in a way that you can display some of your stuff so it looks like it's, decor, if you will, but it's really just a guest room that is also a model railroad room.
Is there anywhere on the internet to see your actual track plan?
I mentioned the track plan. It's shown on YouTube, but I actually should just post it up on. I have a Facebook page that is Sue the Milwaukee Road. I think we eclipsed about 1,000 followers or people that have liked the page. But I try not to bombard the content. But you're right. I should just put up at least a track plan so people can click in there and see what this thing looks like. I'm in a 15 by 12 room.
Yeah,
and I just do it. I just do it on the south wall and the east wall, so it's an L shape.
And that's the entire layout. On that.
Well, not yet. That's just the branch line.
Okay.
So I do have another room that's about 22 by 15, and that's where I'm going to have the majority of the railroad, and this will just become a branch line down the road.
Okay. And this Murphy bed, which is a great idea. You seem like you've got a real knack for carpentry. Is that just a natural talent, or has somebody taught you that, or?
I think my grandpa over the years, he's influenced me because he's always kind of worked with wood. He was big into a lot of the aviation and flying the RC aircraft. But he's built little tables and he's built like furniture with hardwood. And I picked up a lot of that from him, but I've always liked the engineering element behind how to problem solve. I think that's a lot of the graphic designer or the designer mind in me, is thinking of uses of space to maximize the efficiency. So as an example, my wife, since she's home, having to work from home, she didn't like having to work up just in our bedroom. We set up a table and she was working in there. Not ideal. Well, we've got this nice room downstairs, which is technically the guest room. And this is, well, we want to set up a desk there. I said, well, I don't want a desk right in the middle of the room. So we end up converting the closet itself was just empty. And she set up a standing desk that can elevate and lower, as well as have her computer monitor, her chair, and everything can roll into that closet. So you swing the doors all open, and now you kind of got a pseudo office. Oh. She works from there. And when she's done for the day, she closes it all up, closes the two doors, and it's back to a train room.
Wow, how cool is that? And that's all in the same room as the Murphy bed.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. It's an office, it's a bed, it's a model railroad room.
There's like a ton of stuff going on in there. It's a little hard to... I'm going to go back to that. Let me see this part here with the Murphy bed. See if I can follow along, because you really have a knack. So, when I interview Tom Klomoski again, you're going to have to be part of that show, because sounds like you guys have really made a connection.
Oh, absolutely. I enjoy the conversations with Tom. And like I said, I mean, most of the conversation had started just through the videos online. And before you know it, you get to know, another modeler that thinks a lot like you do. I mean, Tom does a great job using his space. His railroad is in a similar, smaller room. And to be able to get into the hobby and to be able to switch like this, I think that's the bigger thing for me. I like switching. I'm not a mainline run guy. I like switching. So to have the opportunity to run down here, and I can switch for half hour, 45 minutes by myself and enjoy what I'm doing. I can enjoy the SDL 39 in action, moving cars. I weather my freight cars and I can see that stuff. It's 3D artwork that I'm able to actually interact with and not just look at sitting on a shelf or sitting in a box or on a wall.
So let me get this straight. Are you trying to tell me your wife's desk is in the same room as the Murphy bed?
Yep. It's the closet to that guest room. It was empty. There was nothing in it.
Holy mackerel.
It's a 4 foot wide.
How big is this room?
It's 15 by 12, but her desk is actually 4 feet wide, 24 inches deep. So she's got her monitor, keyboard, everything on it. And that all fits right inside the closet. And like I said, she can close the bifold doors and roll her chair underneath her desk. And it's out of sight, out of mind.
Man, oh man, you packed a lot of stuff into this room. Holy man.
It seems like it, but it's actually not too bad. I mean, it's spacious. I can only wonder what the coworkers think when they see the model railroad in the background. I should probably be running locomotives and have stuff moving while she's on a call.
So when do you think you're going to start on the bigger part of the layout?
Well, that's a good question. I think what I'm going to do is
hang on. Have some of the questions not been so good?
They're all good questions. I'll let you determine that. But I actually am in the process of, I'm using the large layout room right now as a shop. So that's where I'm doing all the cutting of the wood. I have a table saw and I have my miter saw and stuff in there. So I want to be able to construct while I'm in the space, and I'll be able to cut all my bench work and do it all right on site. And then I have all the floors already been put in. So the tile floor is in, but I've got the rosin or craft paper over the top of it to protect the floor. But it's currently a functioning shop. And my son has it very high on his list to be able to connect. I have a staging yard. It's already been built. It's already assembled, as well as a secondary staging yard in our utility room. So if you want to think of this just for people that are trying to visualize what's going on here, I've got a rectangle with a little branch line that comes off it, and that's where the Murphy bed is. And then I have my utility room, which is just off of this large rectangle, so it creates kind of a funky looking T. The big room is going to house off of it'll be the Hiawatha Elevator District in this independent space. The large space is actually going to be St. Paul. So St. Paul climbs up a hill. It goes past Raymond Avenue Yard, which is the Minnesota Transfer. Now today it's the Minnesota Commercial. That railroad is responsible for transferring with the BN, the Chicago Northwestern, the Milwaukee Road. They handled and were owned by 7 different railroads that handled the Minneapolis transfer service. So all the stuff would get dumped into the Minnesota Transfer, and that would all go out to all the various railroads. So that, to me, is kind of the heart of the center of my railroad. And then from there, it eventually works its way to the Milwaukee Road, had a stretch in South Minneapolis known as the Ditch. And that's a depressed line that ran through South Minneapolis along 29th Street, and it was below track or street level. So the trains weren't having to cross any of the roads. They just ran down through South Minneapolis, heading themselves westward.
What did they call that?
They refer to it as the Ditch. And today it's the Green Line, and you can ride your bike down it, which it's kind of cool for going for a bike ride, but I still wish trains were running through there because it was such a unique and cool way to get traffic in and out of the cities without crossing streets.
Well, yeah, no kidding, eh? I mean, but there's a whole ton of stuff back in the 50s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, things that you look at and you're thinking, wow. You should post more on you need to put more posts on your Facebook page, because this way this is a great video. I highly recommend, and this was Season 4, Episode 10. This is a great way to build a shelf layout in a bedroom or a small room that's an office as well, because you've built it as, with brackets that make it into a shelf underneath, and the layout on top. It just looks spectacular.
Well, thanks. It's essentially 2 bookcases that are mounted to the wall, and then across the tops of the bookcases is the railroad. And I have access underneath all the way around, so there's no top to the bookcase, if you will. But I have access all the way around, and anybody that's even considering just like, sitting in my armchair, I got a whole box of, a bunch of totes that are filled with train stuff, and I don't have anywhere to run them. I know people always say, well, I don't have the space, I don't have the room, I don't have the time. You take a 4x8 sheet of plywood, cut it in half, so you got to run it the long way. You can have it 2 foot by 16 foot and set yourself up in a small shelf railroad just to run some cars back and forth. To me, I think it's well worth it. And I ended up doing it. I had this stuff ready, but again, I tipped my hat to Tom, because Tom's the one that said, hey, I want to see a track plan. I want to see this stuff kind of come together. And I built it and I documented it as I went along. And that's what you're seeing in that in the videos that are on YouTube.
Every time I do one of these podcasts, it's almost like, I never should have started it in the first place, of course. But now I'm talking to you, and I want to talk to Tom Komoski again. So obviously, I'm going to have you on there as the co-host because you guys have been conversing. Anyways, that the community that has been created in the new world is just it's just unimaginable almost. Because
But did you think that did you think you would create this kind of a monster? Because you look at Marks and Jenkins and Ziska and Ostertag, and you got all these different characters that have all kind of melded together, and it has created this little world. I mean, I do feel like AML is its own little world, from the comedy level to talking about the hot dogs and the Jenkins pose. I mean, there's so many different elements that continue to kind of come out of this little world. And I mean, did you think it would ever turn into something like this?
No, never in a million years did I imagine. I mean, it's incredibly, like I say, it's incredibly humbling. But as I say, I think I'm just the guy that pushed the button. Everybody is, makes it what it is. I mean, everybody's involvement makes it what it is. But I mean, Tom Klomoski and you never would have met had you guys not been able to interact through social media. And I mean, the whole community of model railroading has changed dramatically just because everybody can connect so well.
Well, what's funny is I actually had a problem with my Proto Throttle not that long ago, and I posted it on Proto Throttle Facebook site or on their page. And Spoon, of all people, is the one that chimed in. He says, "Call me." And we hopped onto Facebook Messenger, did a live chat. And I've done this a couple times with him, but we've chatted for a couple hours on end, and we've solved the Proto Throttle problem. But we go into all kinds of other, just different topics, what he's working on, his railroad, and he's showing me the different, S scale is a whole nother world in itself. And, I think the friendships, relationships, and things that have developed from not only, like you said, this podcast, but the Facebook world, as well as YouTube world, it's kind of endless. And there's a lot of people I don't even know. I've never met him in person. I've never talked to him in person. I've talked to Spoon and I've seen him in person, but there's people that are messaging me and we're communicating, sharing ideas, sending photos. And that wouldn't be possible if we had ran into the situation we're currently dealing with now 20 years ago. This is a different looking animal compared to what we've got going on now. I mean, to be able to stay connected with all these people, it's fantastic.
It is. It's probably the most fun I've ever had in the hobby is the last 5 years of the podcast. And like you say, and now, I mean, it just, we were lucky we'd already gotten started and everything. I mean, I think that, you've heard me say it 1,000 times. I think the hobby was already getting ready to explode, but COVID just sped the whole process up. You got to post more often on your Facebook page. You have a ton of information for people. I mean, your videos are excellent. I highly recommend everybody go to Sue the Milwaukee Road and watch William's YouTube videos because they're very watchable and tons of information in there. Do you understand I don't think you understand what a contribution you're making to the hobby.
Well, I think that to me, in part, is why I even spend the time to do it, though. It kind of like you're saying with doing the podcast, I'm doing it anyways. So why not document? Why not put it out there to at least share? It can be enjoyable. I mean, there are guys I know that are out there that are kind of like the Curmudgeon, and a lot of times they just complain the whole time. And when it really comes down to it, there is some truth to some criticism. I always feel like, and not everything a person does is going to be perfect. You have to learn from your mistakes, and you have to have somebody at least point out that you didn't do something quite right or how you could do it better. And in the YouTube video, all I ever say is, this is just a way to do it. If somebody watches it and they pick up an idea from it and they apply it to theirs or they improve upon it, great. That's what it's about. It's taking the time to say, hey, that's cool. He's got something in his, basement. In my case, it was watching Tom Klomoski, seeing a finished railroad, and he's operating like it's a prototype. And then I'm sitting there going, oh, heck, I want one of those. So then I start kind of working. I start asking Tom some questions. And the next thing you know, you develop a friendship, you develop, a process to be able to start developing, creating your own railroad. And the next thing you know, you've got yourself something that, you didn't have a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Yeah. And I just, the thing that gets to me is like, I got a list of people I haven't even ever talked to that I want to talk to. And, and I try to get around to everybody again that we've talked to before. And Tom was on that list, but now this is going to spur me on to get a hold of Tom so that we can have that conversation, because I know everybody will enjoy that as well. You're a huge member of the AML network, Bill. I hope you realize that.
Well, it's been fun. And like I said, I really appreciate the stuff that you've done, you, Bruce, and the gang, everybody that is involved. I mean, it does go to, Gordy Robinson that's doing those, the NMRX,
Yeah.
videos. And that's not an easy task. We know what video takes and what goes into that whole thing. And he's hosting and helping doing that type of stuff. I think Tom Gazer here in the Twin Cities with the NMRA, he's kind of fired up a podcast of his own doing for the Twin Cities division. And there's a few guys here locally that are just BSing, and to be able to hear conversation of guys going through similar problems. I mean, this isn't the first time we've had an issue with couplers or, paint or how you're going to go about a technique in the hobby, and to converse and have that, that banter. I think it's something that's always good to give back, and it's always good to share. I mean, I'm sharing through my YouTube videos, but listening to you guys, when are you going to get to listen to Jason Schrawn carry on about what Rapido's doing and hear behind the scenes type stuff, unless you're listening to an interview like this? I mean, I think you provide and give a good interview just in general. Your audio is good. You don't have noise distractions, and your mics all sound pretty good. The individuals sometimes maybe not. It just be
Well, that's you're talking about Kelly there, right? I'm assuming.
Well, yeah, I don't want to name names. No, but I really appreciate it. And I think that, collectively for the hobby, the more we share with one another, the more you can experience and see all the other, alternatives and things that you can do. It doesn't have to be one channel that you're going to go down.
Yeah.
And you can go down a lot of different tracks.
That's for sure. While you're talking there, the next trick for everybody that's going to be experienced in doing, that has seen all the videos and listened to the podcast, the next trick is, when the next group of people come along that don't have the answers, we can't be bored with telling them the simple things that we needed to learn when we started. Like everybody's got to learn some things the first time, and you don't want to get bored with being like, it's something it's just always been a bugaboo of mine, is that, just because somebody comes along that doesn't seem to know the simplest thing, well, it's probably because they just got started in the hobby. Like our buddy Roger Coleman, he's not that long into the hobby, and he's doing all kinds of things. And I'm sure he's been having tons of questions. There's lots of people. It's just so. Tell me what's going on in the Minneapolis area with the model railroading community. Anything exciting?
Well, aside from, like I said, Tom and the podcast that he's doing, I know we have coming up is Ken Ziska puts on every year. He's been doing this modelers retreat. It's a Twin Cities modeler retreat. And that's another place. That's where I met Spoon in person for the first time. I'd been listening to the podcast off and on. And all of a sudden he comes along and says, "Oh, yeah, you ever heard of AML?" I says, yeah, I listened to it. I got the podcast, and my dad was there with me. I says, I got him listening to it. And he says, "Oh, okay." Well, he goes, "Well, I'm the voice of Spoon." I says, "Oh, okay. Well, you're the face that goes with the voice." But the actual modelers retreat is such a great way to, one, see models in person, two, be able to converse with modelers and ask them point blank the questions or techniques that they might have used, and then three, he does Ken gets clinics put on various topics. It might be scenery, it might be weathering, it might just be an overview of a guy's railroad. And those are the ways to be able to get out and connect with people. That there were guys that had shown up that they had never gone to an event like that before. And I hadn't until 2 years ago, when Ken said, "Well, just come down and check out what we got going on." He says, "I think we do $25 to be able to do it for the weekend." And he even said, "Don't worry about paying for it. Just come down." And we just swung by at the end of the day and had the opportunity to talk to Ken and Mike. And that is a connection that, I'll probably have from, for years on out. I'll continue talking to Mike and, Ken as well. But in the Minneapolis area, we've got basement dwellers during the winter. And instead of just going into our hibernation holes, we've had the ability to be able to converse with people. And that's one way of doing it. That's been through the Modelers Retreat. And I think the Zoom chats that some of these guys put on, they just randomly put on the board. They say, "I'm going to do a happy hour Zoom call, and whoever wants in, they can come in and just kind of chit chat about railroad."
Yeah, that's a cool idea too. Yeah, man, we are lucky to be living in this day and age. That's for sure. We are very, very lucky, I'll tell you. Well, how cool is that? What we got to do is then when we hit 250, we'll do this again.
Absolutely.
That's a great idea. Well, anyways, you're going to help me. So would you like to be, maybe I should formally ask you, would you like to co-host when we talk to Tom Klomoski again?
Well, an opportunity to talk to Tom, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
All right. So that's perfect. After this, I'll work on getting that set up. So that's it. So then we decided that let me go back. His name was Michael Maurer. You said, yeah,
We're going to go with Maurer. He's going to have to correct us on it if there's a Maurer.
I think you're right. Maurer is Maurer. I think you've got it. I think you've nailed it.
Well, Michael Maurer, you've got a GBW. It's a 2-bay Green Bay and Western number 418 coming your way. We'll get connected, get you the details, and I'll get this packaged up nicely and shipped out.
Perfect. And you got a couple of AML shirts coming your way for being the 200th patron. And I think that's it. I think we've covered it all. I think I'm going to put this as a little individual interview that we'll put out on probably. It's today. Friday is the 1st, the 5th. Let's aim for March the 12th.
There we go.
I think I like that. That sounds doable to me. What's your favorite part of the podcast?
Favorite part of the podcast, I think, is your conversations with a lot of the manufacturers. If it goes from Nick Santo and the Decoder Buddy to Jason Schron at Rapido, hearing the behind the scenes and those guys being honest enough and I guess candid enough to be able to share some of the stuff that they go through. It's not like, well, I just want to make a model in N scale. All of a sudden they snap their fingers and do it. He tells you the tooling and everything that goes into doing that. But I mean, is N scale really even still alive in the hobby?
Well, it's kind of like Wi-Fi. It's like, it's like a bad signal from Wi-Fi. You know, how when the signal's good, your Wi-Fi signal's good, it's great. But when your signal goes down and it's choppy, it just drives you nuts. That's what N scale's like.
I did have an opportunity to run an N-scale railroad in operating session, and in all honesty, first time I'd ever done it, and I was blown away by actually how well everything ran, and as small as it was, I was still able to read the numbers.
In reality, today's N-scale runs like Swiss watches.
It's impressive. I was amazed. I was amazed. I had a frown going in, maybe, but I was very pleased going out.
We just did a long interview with Smoking Joe D'Amato. We now call him Sleepy Smoking Joe D'Amato. But that'll be coming up in the next month or two as well. Way too many people to talk to. Got to come up with...
Well, keep doing what you're doing. I know you were on Ken Patterson's What's Neat, and you were wearing 15 different hats, but at the same time, you as the official host, I'm always impressed. I'm very pleased, and keep putting out the content.
All right. So let's tell everybody you want to try the email address?
Oh, I'm not going to try it. I'll leave it to you.
All right. Let's see. The email address is modelerslife@gmail.com. That's modelers with one L like Sue line, not two L's like William.
Very good.
That was pretty good. Right off the top of my head. Boom.
That's a seasoned veteran right there.
Yeah, I nailed that one. That one's out of the park. That's another Lincoln Homer right there. And we have a website, modelerslife.com. If you go there, you're going to find all kinds of stuff. But it's the official seller of all AML merchandise. And if you go on the MidwestModelRR.com, that's their URL, MidwestModelRR.com. Scroll across the navigation bar and click on AML. Boom. There is a wonderland of AML merchandise, T-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, whatever you could possibly need. Have you been there at all?
I have. I've ordered from them. They order and ship quickly. And if you receive a package from Midwest, you're going to see an AML sticker for a short time. I don't know if you resupply them with stickers, but I've gotten a couple packages and both of them had it on.
Yeah, we just sent them another 10,000 stickers, so that's going to be going for a while. And you know who else now is sending out their packages with AML stickers is JL Innovative. Chris Costello's over there with his brother Michael. They're out of Salamanca, New York, and they now put AML stickers on all their packages. And soon, our buddy Jim Sacco from City Classics, he's going to have some. And soon, our buddy Adam Pinellas, who's always mad at me because it takes me a long time to do anything for him, he's got a little business called Prospector Models, and he's going to be putting stickers on his boxes as they all head out. So hopefully, eventually, everybody will be. Every package that comes from anywhere will have an AML sticker on it.
And if you haven't subscribed or become a Patreon member, I believe you should, because the content that is within, it goes beyond the free stuff that you get. So if you've listened this far in this interview to at least get to that point, if we get to 250 subscribers, we'll throw in another, I think we're going to go with the 50-foot Milwaukee Road custom painted KDE boxcar and we run her up to 300, we'll do that 187 scale 1972 custom Chevy pickup.
That'll be cool. That'll be very cool. And look at that. We killed 50 minutes. That's how easy it is. That's the problem with this podcast. You and I are just having a conversation, and there's a lot of ground we didn't cover, and boom, we just chewed up 50 minutes.
Well, not even just 50 minutes between the two of us. All the people that listen to this point have just burned up 52 minutes.
Little Mike Wachowski. little Mike Wachowski's listened to it either on his way to work or on his way home from work. He's a head nurse at a hospital. That always throws me off. Nah, little Mike, I'm just saying that. He's little Mike and Speed Muller and Chris Atkins were all skiing out there in Colorado just a few weeks ago, and little Mike got a new helmet and put his AML stickers on there.
I saw it, and Fred the Sock was on there as well.
Fred the Sock, and thanks to you, Fred the Sock exists because nobody could finish it off, and you did it in about 15 minutes. That's a story I'm going to tell before we go. So I had Fred the Sock, and I knew what I wanted it to look like. Kind of it was a sock, boom. But I kind of was thinking of a cross between, the Fighting Irish little leprechaun guy. He's mad, but he's not really mad. And nobody could seem to finish it off. And I asked you, and you did it in like a half an hour. And then you're just a whiz as a graphic artist. And you must have gone to school for that, did you?
I did. University of Wisconsin Stout, so I got a BFA in graphic design and fine art.
See, here's my problem. I've thought of a lot of little Fred the Sock outfits, but I'm afraid to ask you because I don't want to overstay my welcome. So I think I got to kind of space it out, or you're going to have to let me pay you, one or the other.
Well, you throw in occasionally. I mean, it's fine when I grab them, and if they come in and I see it and it's a quick enough little edit, I make the edit. I pull the document because I have the official, vector files of Fred, and he can be changed colors and modified. You had a couple of requests, so if we got to put him behind a desk, we got to put him to work.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Have him look like, he has the little visor and the whole thing, and he's like behind the desk reading the email. I think that would be kind of cool. And we'd put that up on we'd put that up on the website. All right. What else did we have to say? We did the website. We did the email. We talked about everybody that's sending out stickers and Midwest Motor Road. I think that's it. Are you ready for the end?
I am.
So remember, a Modeler's Life podcast is considered marginally adequate by 6 out of 10
wild turkeys.
By 4x4 car crushing action Saturday at the Spectrum. Burning motor coaches battle it out in the mud bog with special guest stars Heather Locklear and Knight Rider Car Kit.
It's another Lincoln Homer.